Hey, fans of the Monday Movie Club. This week, Amy takes us back to her childhood in 1976 when she was a young movie fan in Stamford, Connecticut. She went to the Avon Theater to see Mel Brooks' silent movie. Correct, Amy?
That is correct.
I'm Frank Gaffney. Here with us is Joel Glass. Why is it Joel Glass?
I don't know. I just it was Mel Fun, Dom Bell. I don't know where he's going with that.
Yeah, neither do I. Immediately thought of Ned Glass from the Brady Bunch.
That is my grandmother's maiden name, so.
Glass, and I was thinking of Fenster, window, glass, but yeah, whatever.
I get it.
Hey.
Oh,
I get the joke, Joel.
Goldfuck and Cringer.
Well, hi. I just screwed him all up. God damn it.
Good morning.
Sorry.
Afternoon, good evening, whatever it is right now. And Mark Wotitzgartner, who has no picture up. You know what that means.
Oy vey.
Name. Why the silent movie?
Well, you can understand it when, I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, but apparently this movie really is missing word here to a 10-year-old child, because my God, did I love this movie.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I assume it was my very first Mel Brooks movie. I don't know what made me go see it. I don't know if it was my dad or what.
Because it was playing at the Avon that week.
Playing at the Avon, I could walk there along with, everything else that I've picked for my childhood. The Bad News Bears was playing there, and something else that I had already done. And so I just fell in.
You only ever went to the Avon?
As far as I can remember, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but my memory has me walking there, and I lived right down the block from where Jeff lives now at 91 Strawberry Hill Avenue. Was the Avon walking distance to a 10-year-old?
Yeah.
So that's why I went there. Because, I was a latchkey child as a Gen Xer. So I came home and I had to go to the movies. Anyway, so I just loved it so, so, so much. I was addicted to this movie.
All right. Well, silent movie is an hour and 27 minutes, which makes it a 9-reeler in silent film speak. Awfully long for a silent movie. And about an hour and 20 minutes too long for my taste. No, I agree with Amy completely. I remember it being adorable when it first came out in 1976. Okay, so here's the plot. In this dialogue-free slapstick comedy, Mel Brooks plays washed-up film director. Is he a washed-up film director? Mel Fun, who travels to the ailing big picture studios to pitch his comeback film, a silent movie. Was the which was it the Fox studio that was the studio in the movie?
Well, no, it was big pictures.
No, I know, but was the entrance and all that 20th Century Fox?
Yeah, that was his home studio at that point.
All right. Well, desperate for a hit, the studio chief, played by Mel's old boss, Sid Caesar, gives Fun and his crony, Eggs, Marty Feldman, and Belle, Dom DeLuise, the go-ahead, but only if they can get big celebrities to act in it. Fun and company begin their cross-country adventure to secure superstars for their film.
Is it really a cross-country adventure? It's more of
a
LA adventure.
Yeah. No, I think didn't they go to one other place? I copied that from the website. I did not make that up. Yeah, I don't know. But it does definitely have echoes of the producers, don't you think, Joe?
Yeah, a little bit in the sense that, it's
there was actually one scene where they were all lauding him, and I thought when Mel falls off the wagon and he's Lord of the Winos, I thought, I'm the king of Broadway. Okay. Burt Reynolds is adorable. How cute was he with the winking into the mirror?
That was funny. James
Caan. One of the springs were off his mobile home. Why is his mobile home on springs?
Well, there's in a lot of not a lot, but in enough silent films, there's a trope of a house or something. You see it in the Gold Rush that's unsteady. So they made it.
That's because it's on the glacier, right?
So this way they took a spring out, and it's.
I don't think there's springs on a mobile home, but whatever.
sure
We just kind of saw that in Steamboat Bill Jr. too, with all the houses falling down and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And of course, the fags joke. I thought there should be one more, but it should be something else. I don't know what.
I don't know why they never followed through with that, because the
Yeah,
rule.
there should have been a third one, maybe with the ladies making out and them saying to them,
Yeah.
fags. All right. Liza Minnelli could have been anyone in the whole world.
Yeah.
They got her to do it. Anne Bancroft, okay, she did make me smile, especially when she could separate her eyeballs. Can anybody do that?
I can.
Melissa McCarthy can.
The
I
silent
can.
comedian named Ben Turpin who could do that, and that's kind of
Yeah.
a tribute
I
to
could
him.
do it a lot better than she can.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
Stick your eyeballs up to the camera. Let's see.
Wow.
I find it so easy.
You
What?
you could be Marty Feldman's
Marty
girlfriend.
Feldman, exactly.
Is it not right, Joel?
Oh no, it's right. It's painful. Whenever I see someone do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's almost as bad as the lady who could pop out her eyeballs out of her
Okay.
Oh, I
eyes.
remember her. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, so nice product placement for Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I also remember
in the trivia.
what?
There was a reason. It had something to do with Anne Croft, the band, that they did the Coke stuff.
well, because if you remember correctly, Anne Bancroft couldn't make the Oscars the year she won, and Joan Crawford had gone across say, "Oh, if you're not going to be here, I'll accept for you."
Yeah, yeah.
Fucking Betty Davis.
Yeah.
And so she wound up accepting for Anne, and there was bad blood between her and Anne Bancroft after that, because there was no like, "Thank you for letting me do this" or anything like that after. So,
and because Joan Crawford was the big Pepsi girl, she did the Coca-Cola.
Yep.
And I certainly remember laughing back in the day at the video pong thing. Now it was a little silly, but definitely remember that. And how very cute Marcel Marceau, adorable again.
And then that's the moment I fell in love with mimes and Marcel Marceau.
Can you do some mime for us now?
I used to do it all the time as a kid because I just thought it was the coolest thing.
Yeah, that was good. You actually looked like you were on the computer screen.
Oh, thanks.
Paul Newman.
Oh my God, was he adorable?
Let's call it a wheelchair race. No. Again, really could have been anyone, but he was a big star at the time. And then Bernadette Peters shows up. I guess Madeline Kahn was too busy.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
And I remember the huge laugh when the desk went up when all of them were.
That's in my notes.
Oh my gosh.
That's a moment I remember from 1976.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
I do too, for
Did
sure.
you even understand that at 10 years old?
I assume I did, but in New York City, well, I wasn't in New York then, but we had sex ed very young.
Gotcha.
The closed captioning just said we had sex very young. Okay, and then knocking the tables out with her vagina was so cute. But the really funny thing was the one black woman, everybody else flew back. She just stood up and was like, "Damn, girl." That cracked me up. Then the carousel horse pooping was cute.
I remember that. Yeah.
Very cute.
I've seen this movie a number of times, and that every time it happens, I don't know whether I forget about it. I was on the floor. I don't know why.
It was adorable. It went on a little too long, but I guess because people were laughing so loudly in the theater, he's like, gotta let it run. So
if you've ever real horse poop, it goes on too long anyway.
Yeah. But do they actually poop Rubik's Cube?
No.
And rushing up to the projection booth. I remember when films were projected in a movie theater.
Still projected. They're just not projected on film.
Man, it's crap now. Because it was so, seeing that whole the line of light coming from that room.
Well, you can still see that. You just don't have film running through the machine anymore.
Not the same.
I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just,
Okay, this was a true story? What?
Yeah, technically. Think about it.
He had to do the same thing, convince Fox?
Yeah.
even after having 2 huge hits.
Yes, he still had to convince Fox that doing a silent movie was going to make money. And they were like, get big stars.
Oh, how funny.
That's funny.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing. I don't think he was as clever as some of the silent movies we've seen. So I think the opportunity was missed here. Another giggly one I definitely remember too was Burt Reynolds in the shower, and then the hands come up and they're all in the shower with him. Ridiculous, but
Yeah.
That was funny. Yeah.
adorable. Okay, it was nominated for 4 Golden Globe Awards, but they separate their Golden Globe Awards into drama and comedy categories. So in the comedy category, it was nominated for Best Picture for Mel, for Marty, and Bernadette. And the Writers Guild even had a comedy category then, and it was nominated for that. It made $36 million, which would be $178 million today, which is more than Mission Impossible and Indiana Jones each made this year. So it didn't save 20th Century Fox, and that would happen the very next year when Star Wars premiered. Okay, so Vincent Canby of the New York Times wrote that the film can be enjoyed as a virtually uninterrupted series of smiles, but it doesn't contain a single moment that ever seriously threatens to split the sides. I have to agree with that.
Oh, yeah.
And sorry, Mr. Canby, I did watch another virtual silent movie this week called Monsieur Hulot's Holiday, made in 1953, and it was much, much, much more clever and funny silent movie. So watch that one instead of this one. That's what I recommend. Is Monsieur Hulot's Holiday on Max?
I think you said that.
Yeah.
Might.
And I know Joel agrees with me on that. So Joel, you started to say the beginning about how it does kind of borrow from some silent films, but do you agree with me that it didn't really?
It's interesting that Buster Keaton's widow was actually involved in the movie. She suggested some gags to them, and there's actually a scene that was cut from the film that she was in, involving an old gag that Buster Keaton used to do with a phone booth. But
wasn't there a full house falling on somebody bit in this?
No,
No.
not that I remember. It is missing something. It's a charming film. It's an entertaining film. It's a cute film. Is it a great film? No. It is lacking something from Keith Chaplin and Harold to them.
Yeah, it's just I agree. It's just not clever enough. It's not inventive enough.
It's the bare minimum thing. I think that it's a great springboard to be like, oh, I wonder what other silent movies are like. Let me go watch better ones.
Yeah.
Which would be virtually any one of them.
There are some bad ones, but it also the movie kind of perpetuates everybody has this image in their head of silent comedies, specifically where the action is overly sped up and things like that. And some of it was intentional, but a lot of it was just things were projected wrong well after the silent era, and that's what causes that speed up. And I think when they're doing that, they're imitating that aspect of it as opposed to the intentional speed ups.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
But at the same time, there are some really inventive things that, I mean, aside from Jacques Tati in France, that nobody was doing anymore. It was a lost art to make a silent film. I mean, John Morris, the composer, had to compose 90 consecutive minutes of music.
It's funny when the movie started and there was nothing. It was absolutely silent. I was like, oh, did the sound not record?
Right.
Same here. I fast forwarded it because I didn't remember that.
Yeah.
Weird choice.
No, but I'm saying, but Joel, in a real silent movie, there would have been some music playing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I don't know why I went with that choice, waiting for the Fox logo to come up on the billboard.
But there are other times in the movie where it's silent.
Yeah.
And no music playing.
There's quite a few, Joel.
Yeah.
Not
I
really.
definitely- I
There-
remember thinking, why is it so quiet? right now?
Absolutely.
I remember. Well, all right. Anyway, John Morris claimed to compose 90 consecutive minutes.
Oh
And
yeah. No, I'm sure. I'm sure.
no, but other things like the scene where Mel Brooks is drinking the coffee to get undrunk, and he starts pacing the room faster than everybody else. You can tell that they did speed up the film for him, so it makes it obvious that the other three actors had to do what they were doing slowly,
Slower, yeah.
lots
Yeah.
to make it work properly. I think that's something you would never think about, these days. But there's some nice touches like that. So yeah,
Is that your review?
I don't know. Am I being asked for my review now or no?
Oh, okay. Let me finish mine. A generous 2.5 stars from me. Parts of it were pretty torturous. Joel, continue.
Um, I enjoy the movie. It's definitely not Mel Brooks's best movie. It's not his worst movie.
Oh, hold on.
No,
What's his worst movie?
The worst movie is Life Stinks.
eh,
Oh,
Oh,
I would give that a little bit more over Dracula Dead and Loving It, but just
oh, I forgot. I forgot that one.
everybody forgets about that one for a reason. There's like only one funny scene in that movie. And the other thing about that movie specifically, and unlike Young Frankenstein, silent movie, and High Anxiety, is that we think of Mel Brooks and we think the concept of parody, and we throw in things like Airplane and Hot Shots and The Naked Gun and things like that. But there is a difference, I think, to Mel Brooks's films, specifically the three I just mentioned, in that they're also love letters to those types of genres. Young Frankenstein is very much a, hey, what if this was actually part of Universal's Frankenstein series? And it's very much in theme with all of that. And Silent Movie is the same way in that sense, and so is High Anxiety in regards to Hitchcock movies. Yes, it's a parody, but it also has this love letter quality to it, as opposed to Airplane, where it's like, all right, we're going to throw all these jokes at the screen, and whatever hits.
Well, I think so. Airplane was, 4 years later than this film,
Yes,
and then I feel like where Mel Brooks was setting the pace in the comedy movie, and then he kind of lost step with what had transpired. He didn't keep up with it.
correct, and that's
He
why.
kept making the same.
Yeah, and that's why Robin Hood, Spaceballs, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and Dracula Dead and Loving It are pretty much exactly that type of movie, where it's just, all right, we're going to throw as many jokes on the screen as we possibly can, and some will work and some don't, and he loses out a little bit of that love letter
Yeah,
aspect.
I think you're right. I think that the thread is definitely missing.
Yeah. But to me it's an enjoyable film. I've seen it a number of times. I did not see it at the Avon in 1976. We weren't living in Stamford until actually I guess we would have just moved to Stamford in 1976.
that's why I left.
Exactly. I understand that.
She was like, "There goes the neighborhood."
Right. The Avon's a nice theater. It's still open. It's kind of an art house these days.
Lovely theater.
Wow.
They're supposedly working on raising money to renovate the two existing screens and add a third, because they can't fill the big theater anymore. So I think they're gonna
Oh, they're splitting it.
and make
Yeah. No, that makes sense, I guess. It's kind of sad, but it makes sense.
the seats are uncomfortable for me. I have long legs and they're low to the ground, so my
Yeah.
knees on fat.
Yeah. It's
Anyway.
definitely for a different time.
It's a good theater. I don't want to say it's not. Anyway,
But
yeah,
in 1976, Joel, the seats probably were okay for you.
I'm sure they were. I don't remember. Uh, my experiences there that I remember from the past were going on a double date with a friend of my brother's,
You
and
have a brother?
and went to see one of the Friday the 13th movies, and a fight almost broke out in the theater. So anyway,
Ah, nice.
my big remembrance of seeing a movie at the Avon. Um, Yeah, it's middle of the road Mel Brooks, but it's fun. I would see it again at some point. I don't want to call it a remote dropper for me because it's rarely on television, but if it was on and there was, be like, okay, let's stop here for a bit. Oh,
How many stars?
I'm
Yeah.
gonna be a little more generous than Frank and give it 3. Just there's a nostalgia factor for me. The love letter, the silent movie aspect for me is fun. The horse poop joke, I don't know why, just gets me every time. I don't normally go for jokes like that, but I
But
laugh.
it really is so clever because the tail goes up
Yeah,
and those things start coming out.
and
It
the look
really is clever.
just is kind of priceless. And that's some of the things that, the more times I see it, the more things I notice. Like I didn't, when we talked about the table going up, when Harold Lloyd pulls down the picture of Bernadette Peters for the Engulf and Devour board, and I never noticed the double take he looks. He takes when it goes up, and he's kind of like, really, you know, um, and going back to the true story thing, that's another thing that was going on in Hollywood at the time, is that the studios were starting, that's the start of being bought up by conglomerates. Paramount had been taken over by Gulf and Western, and that's pretty much where Engulf and Devour come from.
Sure.
So, and another thing about Keaton and the bit with Ron Carey and Harold Gould in the jacket in the bathroom is taken directly from The Cameraman, which was Buster Keaton's first film for MGM before his career started declining. There's a very similar bit in there where two people are changing in a very small environment, and the clothes keep going on the wrong person. So
I think your enjoyment for this movie can definitely be enhanced by knowing what things were taken from where,
and again,
as in any movie.
I love silent movies. They are an acquired taste. I know that. The comedies are easier to digest than the dramas, but there's a history there, and as I said, I think this film definitely plays into that. It's a
But
couple of
not as much as an homage as it should have been.
correct. If you want to go for an homage silent film that's more along those lines, and a modern one, you'd have to look to either The Artist or Sidewalk Stories, which both really good movies, and better silent films than this one specifically.
Oh, The Artist. Oh.
Yeah.
But there's something else I was about to say, and I can't remember what the hell it was.
All right. When you do remember, let us know. Mark,
Did I give you my
have you
stars?
seen it before?
Yeah,
Yes,
2
you did.
3/4.
Stars.
Oh, 3.
Three stars. Had you seen it before, Mark?
No, this is my first time. 4 stars. No.
Aha.
No, first time seeing it. We both liked it better than we thought we would have. And Amy, you just said it can be enhanced by knowing the behind the scenes and stuff. So my take on that is, I think if I saw this 20 years ago, before I was mature and sophisticated, I would have hated it. And even just a few years ago, before this lovely club that we're in, I think I wouldn't have appreciated it before seeing a silent movie. Thank you, Joel. And also learning about studios and stuff like that. Like, I just watched the Warner Brothers documentary, and I've learned a lot about behind the scenes studios, thanks to you nerds here during our discussions. And so I wouldn't appreciate it as much. So I kind of got it, especially with the whole big studios and Engulf and Devour. I definitely giggled at that. I hated some parts, absolutely hated. Marty Feldman with the elevator gag. No. The suits of armor with what's her face, Liza Minnelli. No. The constant fat jokes with Dom DeLuise were just.
And he wasn't even fat.
I was like, he's like 20 pounds overweight. My God, with these fat jokes. And the fag jokes too. It's a sign of the times. I get it, but it was just didn't hit for me. I did like the Burt Reynolds bit, and of course, I loved the boner scene in the boardroom. I'm also giving it 2.5 stars, but I will say that part of that is because it's Mel Brooks, and I'm a big fan, and I had never seen it before, so I do appreciate, Amy, you, just like anything else. Even if I don't love it, I finally saw another
Yeah.
Mel Brooks movie. So
Agree. And I'm curious as to why you and Danielle went into it thinking you wouldn't like it.
because we knew it was a silent movie.
Interesting.
And we just both, and I can't even explain it. Sometimes, you know when you get that feeling, just I don't want to see that movie. Well, why
Oh,
not?
yeah.
I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. It doesn't
Yeah.
look good. That was kind of what we both had.
Yeah, Amy has a whole list of those movies that
Yeah.
she.
That was me with
Okay.
Psycho, and I give it 4 stars now.
Funny.
All right, Annie, had you seen it before?
Let's see what she's about. Oh, yay!
Fantastic.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's-
I was just so surprised that
Oh,
you loved it so much, Amy, because it's so slapsticky.
because
And-
I was 10.
Oh, and like some of it were just like, I'm like, enough already. Like some of the jokes just went on just that little
That's
bit
in
too
my
long.
notes.
Oh, and not to mention I was 3
Drunk?
shots in that night while I was watching it, so that was a little tougher. But yeah, no, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was, but like really, I was like, I don't need to see this again. So, you guys said most of everything, and wait,
She wrote down her stars. Hang on. Too funny. Okay.
That
Now I
was
wish
really
Annie had gone
great.
last because I'm not topping that. It was brilliant.
Yeah, that was
I'm
fantastic.
sorry. Annie wins this video.
Yeah.
Just shut it down now.
That's it. Bye. Aim.
Let me see. I took very few notes. The thing about Mel Brooks is he tends to go on too long. Like the Springs and James Caan's trailer, enough already. So, and I totally feel your pain so often. It's just
It has to go on long enough because the pepper on the roll,
yeah,
it has to be. It's such a ridiculous bit.
yeah.
The one that finally has him, move in such a way that the whole thing just falls apart.
Sure.
It kind of almost has to go on that long.
But
Well,
I,
and
but
the
I
other
just
thing
find
that
that with so many scenes.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you
Yeah.
there. You
Well,
mentioned
the
that.
other thing that I said already is that, watching it in a movie theater, people are laughing, so you have to let it go on so that you don't miss something else.
Yeah.
Doesn't work the same way on TV.
I also, and before I forget, there was something that happened within the first 15 minutes of the movie, and it was so old school, I thought, Mark is never going to get that joke. And it's a brilliant joke, and now I don't remember what it was. Do you have any idea, Mark? Or did you ever go, what the fuck was that?
I do not recall.
Because there was something last week in the movie too, and I said that line was way too Jewish. Mark will never get it. Oh, I wish I might have to watch the first 15 minutes to find it today.
Yeah.
I also said, and of course the scene where they're dressed as knights went on way too long, but I actually enjoyed it because the actors in those costumes did a great job, especially the one that was really up front on camera. The way he was just sliding around, and I can't remember who he was supposed to be, who was, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And very, very cute that they clearly didn't need costumes because Liza Minnelli wanted to work with them. You know what I mean? I guess they put the costumes on,
Yeah.
And the Coke can as a grenade. Go ahead, Joel.
Sorry, did you know the stabilizing leg on the table?
I did not.
All the tables are pedestal tables, but that
Right.
one has an extra leg on one side.
That makes sense.
That's
Yeah.
you see it every time they land on the table, and then once the table collapses, it is completely there. It's like
Yeah.
oh, anyway, sorry.
I was just gonna say that when he bit the tab off the Coke can and threw it, and that was brilliant. That was so good. Love that moment. But again, so much of it went on too long. So much of it was not as funny as it was when I was 10. I don't like slapstick. You're right, Annie. And I think a lot of people, I think Mel Brooks is one of those people that a lot of people love, even if they don't love him. They think they love him. I don't think a lot of his movies are as good as maybe 3 of them. I mean, The Producers is a top 10 movie of all time for me. Young Frankenstein and the one that we watched last year, I just went out of my head, the Western one.
Blazing Saddles.
Thank you. To me, they're funny movies and certainly better than this one, but they're no producers. And so many of the rest of them are like, ah, this really isn't funny. This
Yeah,
is
I think again, Amy,
Baseballs.
I think here it's the nostalgia factor.
Oh, definitely for this one. And
You
but I'm
had-
saying
you had no idea that it aged as poorly as it did because you hadn't seen it since then. And
but I
think
had a
that's the same
feeling knowing what Mel Brooks really is. And again, I just think he's up on a pedestal with people. And if they sat and watched all of his movies and really critiqued them, it would be like, all right, this movie really isn't not funny, not funny, not funny.
You see a progression. It's, you know,
Oh,
it
sure.
started from such a high point with the producers, and I know a lot of people have not actually seen the 12 Chairs. I think it's a great movie. But you get Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, and then it's really like silent movie, high anxiety.
Hold on. Everyone's forgetting about History of the World. I love History of the World.
Has moments, but I saw it right before we watched part 2, almost a year ago.
Part 2 was a real number
Part 2 was funny. I like that.
Ooh, it was a stinker.
Okay.
Really.
Oh,
I
wait a
couldn't
minute.
get through it.
Right.
Yeah.
Note to Joel: put 12 Chairs on your list. period.
Yeah, because I don't know that movie at all.
Okay.
But and I was going to say, I think it's very similar to Neil Simon. Absolutely brilliant. And then you see what Neil Simon wrote in like the 90s. You just want to, Neil.
I think it's the same case with Mel Brooks and Neil Simon. It just
Yeah, I'm comparing them for sure.
kept writing the same
Is between the,
stuff. It just didn't keep up with the time.
what is the connection between the two of them that makes that happen? I don't know.
I think your show of shows.
Was it my show of shows?
Your shows, yes.
Anyway,
They both came from that era of comedy writing.
Making a bad joke in several levels.
because I mean, I know your show shows, but I thought you were just going with, well, they're still doing it and they got older.
Well, yes, but they also came out of your show of shows, so that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that
So
was
they
the
have that mentality. So I will give it, Mark, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Amy, I did appreciate also, I didn't mention it, but when the three main guys are walking in unison, all close together with each other, it was very cartoonish. It was like Tom and Jerry. And it also, he's done that in other things, Walk This Way and all that stuff. He's done it in Young Frankenstein and History of the World. I did appreciate that part as well.
Good, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I will give it 2 3/4 stars. I would give it 2.5, but it's get the extra half for the nostalgia. And the Coke can grenade. And the knight, that one knight who was brilliant.
There's just a couple of quick trivia things. The incredibly pregnant woman. Does anybody know who that was?
She's married to one of them, Marty or Tom. What?
Eloise's wife.
Oh, Tom.
And she actually was very good friends with Buster Keaton. That's why they were able to get Eleanor Keaton involved in the movie, because she was on the national tour of Once Upon a Mattress. Buster Keaton was in.
Oh, okay.
And Jodie Goodman, who plays the woman that keeps yelling fags, was also in that. So lots of connections with Mel Brooks. You see a lot of people.
Yeah, you get all your friends to come and play.
So many directors do that.
I mean,
Yeah, I do it.
the executives of Engulf and Devour, not Harold Gould and Ron Carey, but Barry Levinson, Rudy DeLuca, Jack Riley, Howard Hessman. They were all in that scene. And
I was looking at all of them to see if I recognized them, and I didn't until the credits rolled. I was like, Howard Hessman is there? Wow.
barely see him. Howard Hessman is actually sitting on the side of the table opposite the four executives with the slap routine.
Mhm.
He's the second one down from Harold Gould. So when Harold Gould gets all rabid with the Alka-Seltzer coming out of his mouth, Howard Hessman is the one that gets up to grab him first. And that's really the only time you're like, oh, hey, that might be Howard Hessman. I'm not.
Oh, and I did want to say, we both were like, who is that guy in that slap scene? The short one was Swiftus from History of the World. So
Yeah, Ron Carey. Ron Carey was in, this was his first film with Mel Brooks. He's in High Anxiety as Brophy, and he's Swiftus in
Okay.
I mean, I knew him from Barney Miller.
yeah, exactly. But even like Rudy DeLuca plays Braces in High Anxiety and worked with Brooks on as a writer on several films. Or Oscar-winning director Barry Levinson was the next one in line to get the slap.
Yeah.
He worked with Mel Brooks again in High Anxiety. He's the bellhop that brings him the paper in the Psycho parodies.
Well, that was before he was an Oscar-winning director.
Well before he
Sure.
and he was actually married to Valerie Curtin, who was the nurse that was ignoring everybody in the ICU with the was it My Filthy Dreams book or whatever she was reading? So.
All right, Joel, enough with the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Right.
All right, so Silent Movie is not available on your usual subscription services, and I don't know that you would go find it, but it is not for rental either. So you have to just buy it or borrow the DVD from your library.
Thanks, Disney.
Which I did. Next week, Joel takes us to the hilarious hijinks of prison camp in World War II.
Schindler's List.
With The Great Escape.
Ooh.
And again, not available from description, but it's actually going to be on TCM next Monday night after we already do this.
Aw.
So if you see our review and then you're like, oh, I'd like to watch that, you can watch it. All right, whatever. I'm Frank Gaffney.
Hold on, Joel's been trying to get me to watch this movie for about a decade now, and I'm very excited to see this and see what I think of it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
But one quick thing: did we plan on doing this on Anne Bancroft's birthday?
Oh, how funny!
Yeah.
Anyway,
and of course the closed captioning said "Bang Cross." Like, okay, and Bang Cross.
It was when you post this, just tell everybody turn the sound,
closed captioning.
Watch the closed captioning.
All right, kids, that's it for us. I'm Frank Gaffney. Go watch a movie.